All right. Welcome to Hell of a Show. Demon Phil here. And if you can see and hear me, let me know, and we'll get this bad boy started immediately. Different show format that we're doing now, starting tonight. We're going to have some fun with this. We got a great guest on here. So if you will let me know you can see and hear me, I'd certainly appreciate that. And we will get going with this bad boy. And hopefully everyone is having a great night so far, had a great day. And let me go ahead and start off with... We have got Christina Witt is here. That is my baby. So that is to you right there. And then Eve is here. Thank you for being here, Eve. And looking for more people to be here. So please share this out. Let them know that we've got this going on. And we will get started on this bad boy. And let's see. Just trying to make things look a little better around here. All right. If you can see and hear me, let me know, and we will get going with this bad boy. We have got the new video on there. Hopefully y'all can hear me on this. That was actually Wendy Steen Shaner set that up for me. So now our sponsors are on the beginning video on there, so I don't have to spend an additional 10-15 minutes going through the entire list on there. So Jim Noble will quit whining about it. So all right. We're going to go ahead and get this thing going. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Hell of a show. And we're making some changes to the show, as you can see already. And there are more changes along the way. Pay close attention to Hell of a Show and Unscripted. You're going to see a lot of things going on there and a lot of things changing within the DemoNation. So keep your eyes open for that. Tonight, I've got a returning guest on here who has a current project going on right now that we want to bring him up and start talking about that because it is soon ending. I think it's got about 4 more days. But we want to go ahead and talk about that and some other projects he's working on, get to know him a little bit better, and have some fun with this. So let me go ahead and introduce. This is Jay Fotos here with us tonight.
Boom! There I am.
What's up,
back.
Jay?
I am back.
Yes, welcome back.
How you guys? How's everybody doing out there?
Well, for those that are out here that don't know who you are, if you'll go ahead and give them a quick little thing about who you are, what you do, and where to find you.
Oh, boy. All right. Let me see. I've been working in the comic industry professionally over 20 years now. I started off with Todd McFarlane back in late 90s, working on like Curse of Spawn, Cygor, Spawn the Undead, Sam and Twitch. What else? Yeah, bunch of different Spawn titles on Spawn and stuff throughout the years there. Then from there, kind of branched off. I worked with Chaos Comics and IDW, and I've been working with IDW for well over 15 years. And then kind of doing my own stuff with Image Comics and kind of branching off and just doing stuff all over the place. Movies, video games, board games, name it. Anything I can get my hands on. Kind of thing. So, I mean, yeah. So, in a nutshell.
Yeah, exactly. In a nutshell. I mean, you know what happens whenever you have idle hands. So we don't want to have that by any means. So it keeps you busy.
Yeah. That, or if I'm not working on my comic books, I'm working on. Hey, David. If I'm not working on my comic books, I'm out back. If anybody follows me on Instagram or my Facebook page, Jay Fotos Studios. I don't really, but I have a bunch of tortoises, and I take care of them, and I usually post their antics and my antics, messing around with the tortoises. So
very interesting.
But I'm not doing comic books,
Exactly. Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and change speeds on this one. We were just talking about tortoises going slow. We're going to move faster on this one and talk about your campaign because it is moving pretty quick.
Yeah.
And we're into the last 4 days, and the campaign is Gorgon.
Yeah.
And I actually have the links embedded in all of the Facebook feeds that are on here and the YouTube. So just go over there, click on it, go look at it, support it, do whatever you can to get the word sent out on there and get this thing moving. And go ahead and let us know, what is the synopsis for Gorgon? What exactly are we looking for in there?
Well, and we were talking about this earlier. It's just that in a nutshell. And then I try to tell people, I'm like, hey, have you ever seen that show Narcos on Netflix? And they're like, hey, yeah, I love it. I said, well, picture Narcos, but throw a monster in it, kind of thing. And then they go, oh man, that sounds cool. And I'm like, yeah, well, that's kind of our in a nutshell pitch, right? But then to further go into it, it's and it kind of goes back to my love for well, I'm Greek, but my Greek mythology and whatnot, and going back to like Clash of the Titans, back to 80, late 70s, 80s Clash of the Titans, about Medusa and whatnot, and then reading a little bit more into it, there was these her two other sisters, and they're called the Gorgons, and you never hear about them, or you never know what happened with them. So my story kind of is like a branch off of that, of like, we kind of know what happened to Medusa, with all the mythology and whatnot, but then whatever happened to these two sisters. And then my story kind of drops you in the middle of Colombia, basically in a middle of the jungle, where there's a lost city in Mayan city, and one of these Gorgons ends up there, buried underneath this what seems to be a temple that's like sinking into the ground, and she's been there for hundreds of years. That the gist of it is that the Greeks wanted to get rid of the Gorgons, so they made a deal with the Mayans at that point, like, hey, give us some gold. And the Mayans wanted a god, quote unquote, to guard their gold, right? So that's how they bring in this Gorgon, and they treat it as their god. And obviously the civilization dies out, but she's still alive, and she's still stuck in this temple. And then she gets discovered by this one bad dude cartel guy, and works out a deal, quote unquote, a deal with her. And what you come to find out is that her venom is very, very toxic, and that if you dilute it down by like 1,000%, it's like better than like crack, and it's like this most addictive kind of drug that's that's kind of taking over the drug world, I guess, right? So that with that there's rival cartels and this, that, and the other thing. So we have, all this kind of battling cartels, and then you kind of find out more and more about this Gorgon, and then there's this DEA agent that's finding all this stuff on the streets in LA, and then he gets the go ahead to go down and try to find out where the source is, and then you can imagine what happens, right? So when he goes to stick his nose where it's not supposed to be, chaos ensues, so then and we'll kind of leave it at that, because that's where like a lot of the beef of the cool part of the story is, that this DEA agent gets down in there. And then there's another herpetologist slash paleontologist, I think it is. Yeah, the paleontologist or girl ends up down there too, and they kind of team up, and they're trying to find out where this is coming from, and they get mixed up into the bad, all in the cartel stuff, and it gets ugly. It gets really ugly. And then and then like I said, with this series, we're kind of doing it in lumps, steps, I guess, if you want to call it, or volumes. Our first volume, volume 1, is going to be more the intro, and then bringing you deeper, or bring it to the point of the story. Then obviously we want to keep going, volume 2, volume 3, volume 4, however long, and this is what we say in our campaign, is that however long you guys want us around, we'll be here, so we're really kind of leaving it in your hands when it comes to this. So we're not falling back on a publisher or any of that kind of stuff. So we're really kind of at the mercy of our fans here, so.
Exactly. And right now, I mean, the campaign is doing pretty well. It's sitting at, let me look at it here. You had just made the goal for the stretch goal on there to go ahead and open up the inside art, having the
like I got one right here. So this is one of the boxes right here, right? So
yes.
Nat Jones, obviously a buddy of ours, I've been working together with Nat for 20 years, right? So I hit him up so he's busy kind of doing his own thing with other stuff, and he's got other stuff going on. But we talk all the time, and I said, hey, I got this cool project. I know you would have fun doing something, right? So he did a really cool pinup piece of art right here that I'm like, oh, cool. Let's use this inside of the box, right? So here's the get that. Won't get a glare. So there's the skin of the inside of the box, and then the box will be signed by myself, Jeff Zornow, and Mark Kidwell, and then as the added stretch, get Nat to sign this too. So which is cool because anybody who's like a fan of ours when it comes to death, all the Frazetta Death Dealer stuff or 68 obviously, and Nat and I've been working on stuff together for years. I mean, if you do a Google, you'll see just him and our names pop up on a lot of stuff together. So it's kind of cool to have us together somewhat a little bit in this, you know what I'm saying? So,
Exactly.
But eventually down the road, we'll get him, we'll do some kind of something book or something down the road. I'm not, I'm always eager to work with Nat because him and I are we see eye to eye on like virtually everything. So it's really fun and fun to work with him. So
yeah, it's got some amazing looking artwork that's in there. The storyline sounds great. The stretch goals, I love the fact that with the boxes, if you decide to get the box, then you get all these signatures inside of it. We've got that unlocked now. We've got the new art to put on the inside there. Now Nat's going to sign that. And the next one up, I believe, is the bookmark, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, next one up is a bookmark. And then debating what I'm going to do after that if we get that far. But debating on either, because I think I offered a free, was it a Neanderthal comic book?
Yes, that is correct.
So I have, you can get, or everybody gets this now. So if you log on and just pledge the $20 tier, you're going to get one of these. So, and then I should have made it a point like this one, the sketch cover, this one Nat did, right? So then obviously this is the Frazetta that we based the story off of, but yeah. So anybody that jumps in now, you actually get a free one of these versions. There's two different covers here. And then I'm going to tell everybody now, like if you get this one with the sketch cover one, this one's really rare. I think when we solicited or when we put these out, there was like a 1 in 25. So you had to order 25 of these to get one of these. So it's going to be a random thing. So when you do get these, you're going to get either or. But you might be the Frazetta fan and go, well, I want let me get my camera straight here. You might want to get the Frazetta cover, but this cover, the one with the Sabretooth on the front, is the super rare one. So if people are like, well, yeah, I want some, I mean, you can obviously go on eBay or whatever and pick one of these up, but this is going to be the tough one to get. So keep your fingers crossed. You might get the really good one. But yeah, if you log on now and you pledge $20, you're going to get one of these. So along with the pin, where's my pin? There's like a pin on a collector card thing here that has a button on there. I don't know if people can really tell what that. Let me take this out of the package because every time I try to explain this, like what? So it's a collector card, right? That has the art of the cover on it, and then there's a pin on it that matches the art. So you can take this pin off. Then the art's underneath it too. Then on the back has some there. So everybody gets one of these too. So even if you sign up for $20, you're getting one of these as well. So you're getting some goodies. And everybody that's like, I tell everybody that I usually message everybody when they pledge saying, hey, thank you, thanks for your support. And then some of the guys that do the digital, that it's like $10 for the digital. I said, hey man, for an extra $10, you're going to get yourself a paperback version. You're going to get one of these. You're going to get, a free comic book. You're going to get all this free stuff. You might as well just bump it up, you know what I mean, for an extra, $10, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Dale Guzman is here. Dale, I appreciate you being here. I know you came in late. You asked a couple of questions on here. So this is for Gorgon. And the links are embedded in all the Facebook and YouTube and everything that I'm going on feeds. The links are in there to click on to go directly to the Kickstarter to look at it. It ends in 4 days. So make sure you go over there, take a look at it, and get that thing shared out and move it around. But more importantly, get involved, because this is what he's showing on here looks cool. But I'm telling you, whenever you get the thing in your hands, this is Rising Rebels, what he did before in the last Kickstarter. I'm telling you, once you get this in your hands, you are amazed by what comes in there and how cool it looks and just how perfectly everything is set up in there. I mean, it's words.
Yeah, it's a good. I mean, when we did the Rising Rebels campaign, I mean, first it was based off the story of a VHS, right? This kid finds this VHS and plays it with his dad, and then it just this box just made it even way better. It was just easy because it just looks like a big VHS box, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, but it did really well. So now we brought it back for the Gorgon, and the idea is like you obviously you just keep, because we're going to be doing everything in volumes, right? So every time you get the first volume, and then you keep all your stuff in this box, all the add-ons and exclusives that you get with it, you kind of keep it in this box. So when we go into volume 2, you just stick it in this box. Volume 3, blah blah blah. Eventually we're probably going to outgrow this thing probably quickly, but then I'm sure for each campaign we'll offer another box with a different design on the front or something like that. So, but I mean, for this campaign, this is the only design you're going to get for this campaign. So, but yeah, I think they come in handy because I'm a big fan of them, because you just kind of keep all your stuff nice and neat in it. Like what you were saying with all your Rising Rebels, because we just had all of those crazy exclusive, and everything just fits nice and neat in these boxes, right? So it's I think people dig them. So as long as people dig them, we will make them. So
now we're talking about the campaign. We're going to continue doing that and everything, but to kind of give a background into your comic background into doing all this and all. Of course, you had mentioned Spawn. We're going to talk about that as well, but I want to talk about Lock and Key, because that's a huge thing right now. And a lot of people aren't aware that you've done a lot of work with Lock and Key.
Oh yeah, from the beginning.
And exactly. They want to know what's up. What's going on with Lock and Key? How did you get started into that?
Well, the story goes, Gabriel Rodriguez, he's the artist on, or co-creator on it, and with Joe Hill. And it started, Gabe and I started working together like 2006, maybe around there. Our first collaborate was Land of the Dead, the movie adaptation, and we did that. That was our first, and he's just started working for IDW, because I think right before that he was working on CSI or something like that, and then Land of the Dead was his second project with IDW, and then I started working with him, and then from there, boom, we constantly been working together for leading up to today, So from there, we did Beowulf, then we did a huge project was Clive Barker's Great and Secret Show with Chris Ryall. And then from there we started. Then we probably did a couple. I mean, I'm looking at my bookshelf here, but there's probably a few things that we worked on in between that. Then we started working with Joe on Lock and Key back in 2008, maybe around there. And then obviously, however many dozens of books, volumes and spin-offs and one-shots and this, that, and the other. And right now we're working on it. Right now we're working on a huge project, which is we just got done doing Impale Battalions Go. Here's a copy right there of issue number 2. Then I have issue number 3 right there. There's issue number 3. And then now we're working on the crossover of Lock and Key and Neil Gaiman's DC Sandman. And then we're almost wrapping that up. I'm down to I'm waiting for the last 4 pages from Gabe. And then it's there's going to be 2 issues, and they're oversized issues. The first issue is going to be put out through IDW, and it's going to be 32 pages of art, story and art. And then the second issue is going to be put out through DC. We're all doing the same. I mean, we're all doing the interiors basically. When Rael was setting the plan up for this, he's like, basically we're just finishing it and handing it to DC, and then they print it, right? So and that book's gonna be a lot bigger. That's gonna be like it's gonna be 80 pages total. So that's gonna be 48 pages, that issue. So I'm guessing it's gonna be like a perfect bound issue. And that's gonna be, 48 pages. And then the first one's gonna be 32, story and art. Normally we do 22 or 20. So we add an extra, 12 pages of story and art to this. And it's really extensive. It's like our best work to date. And if you know Gabe's art, it's really, really detailed. And, everything he does is absolutely meticulous and perfect, right? So you can imagine how he wants to be when he's working on a really big project like this, that, both him and I, that we want to make this thing as badass as possible. Right. So it's taking a little bit longer than we were. It was supposed to be released, I think, in February. So we're probably going to be going into a late March release. So.
And Lock and Key is one of those that it just doesn't seem to end. It's not losing momentum.
No, now we got a TV show, right? So,
right.
And the first season did really well, and they're done shooting the second season, and they already announced the third season. So,
nice.
Netflix and everybody behind it is really behind it. If they're announcing the third season before even the second series comes out, that's pretty good, right? So with that, we're like, well, if they're going to be doing that, we're going to be around making comic books. So,
right,
because usually we'll ride that wave along with them. You know what I mean? So I don't think we're going to be doing. I know because Joe's busy guy. He's doing a lot of TV stuff as well, and movies and writing novels and whatnot. So it's a matter of working with his schedule a little bit. But I know he wants to get into like actually putting out a whole other, like our first collection of 6 volumes that he wants to. And it's called World War Key, and it's like going to be another gigantic, 10-year project, kind of thing.
Nice.
So, but I know there's talk with that. So it's really up to Joe, I think, with his schedule and figuring it all out. So, I mean, I'm here no matter what. So I'll we've been the same team from the very beginning, and we'll be the same team on our way out. So really excited about doing anything Lock and Key, because we have a really good fan base. Our fans are, really, really behind us 100%. And then with the TV show, I think a lot of people really dig the TV show as well. So
now Dell's asked a question. He said, so I just got into comics last year, so I want to get into Lock and Key. Should I read the comic first, or can I watch the show on Netflix?
Good question. Anybody that I talk to, because I'm turning 50 this year, so I'm more of an adult. I'm more of an adult. But I mean, I'm more. My tastes are. I'm more of a horror guy, right? So anybody that I do talk to that hasn't seen the TV show or the books, obviously I'm going to like, hey man, read my books. You know what I mean? But I look at it more as the books are way more adult. They're more grittier and way more horror. Right. The TV show, I think, is geared a little bit more towards a younger generation, which that's their demographic, and it works really well. I think perfectly. And then I'm hoping as they go more into the story, like I want to say the last couple episodes of the first season, when they get into the Crown of Shadows and the shadow demons or whatever. That's where I like to be. You know what I mean? I like the dark, creepy monster stuff, so I'm really hoping that they get a little bit more into that when we get deeper into the story or whatnot. But again, we're the core of this story is about this family, and they're in high school and grade school, so you got to kind of cater to their lives and their interests, and then anybody that's watching the show. Is obviously, because there's that demographic there. I mean, for the books themselves, it's a different demographic. It's more adult for sure. You know what I mean? So
exactly. I mean, it goes along with the storyline, but like you said, it's much darker in the books, which is great. But it does play out well in the show too. So I mean, you can do both, and it doesn't really take away from one or the other.
Yeah. Yeah, I think again, now that they're going to be going into a third season, I think it's going to give them way more room now to kind of go, all right, cool, let's try this and let's do this and let's try that and see if this works and see if because when obviously when you have your first season, you're trying to just get it perfect or trying to nail it. You don't have much room to experiment much, right? But now that if we're already moving into a third season, you got some room to expand and do some cool stuff here, so that's what I'm really hoping, that as we get into the second and third season, that like it's just going to keep getting better and better and better, right? So
Exactly. Now, the last time we had you on the show, we talked about this, and I'm going to bring it up again because we have some new people that are watching and will be watching. We had discussed a little bit about your work on Spawn, because Spawn is such a, well, I mean, it's a world record breaker. So,
yep.
It kind of has that.
I worked on issue 301, by the way. So.
Oh, nice, you did?
Yeah. So I worked on the record breaking book. That's what I get to say. So
nice.
There's the three. I know he did a big launch with 300, and then I jumped in on 301 to kind of help out with a couple pages there, and then I could say, well, I worked on the record breaking Spawn. So
very cool.
Yeah.
So I think I brought it up in the first one, but I want to bring it up again. Is how do you start working with the Todd Father on that? How does that get brought up that you actually start working in that?
What do you mean on
Spawn.
At the beginning?
Right, at the beginning, yes.
Yeah, because I think how it was, Todd was he had Spawn, right? And then he had a spinoff. He had Curse of the Spawn.
Right.
And then I think at a time he wanted to do Cygor, Salmon Twitch, and Spawn the Undead.
Yep.
And then he was still doing Dark Age of Spawn, I think, too. And then he was phasing out Curse of the Spawn. And then I jumped in like the last couple of issues of Curse of the Spawn, and then jumped in like boom with Salmon Twitch, Cygor, Spawn the Undead. I was working on all those. And then I think I jumped in on Dark Age of Spawn for a little bit. And then Todd wanted to do this kind of like big push of all these different things. Kind of like I think he did an announcement on it recently that he's doing like a Spawniverse kind of thing.
Right.
So I think what we were doing was kind of like that, but not as intertwining as he wants to do it. He wants to do it, I'm guessing, more of like the Marvel kind of stuff, intertwining universe, right? So I think back then we were, everything had their own little space, like Cygor, Salmon Twitch, everybody had their own like little space, and we didn't really get it to mix everything. But I think with the new stuff that he's going to do, it's going to be way more universal and bringing them more in together. I think. I'm not sure, but I kind of help Todd on like every once in a while something will come up, and then he's only 10 minutes from me, so I think he's got me in his brain somewhere. Like if all else fails, called Jay, I guess. But so I think the last thing I worked on with him was he had a toy line called Rav 10 or I forgot the name was, but it's a new Cygor figure.
Okay.
Rav something 10. I forget. Boy, I'm gonna get my ass kicked because I forgot the name. I don't have any of them here, but each toy, they're big vinyl toys, really cool. There's like a shark, there's a snake. They're kind of half robot, half shark, half, and then there's a velociraptor. There's there's Cygor, and then there's a snake. There's and then there's the shark, shark too. So I think there are 4 different toys in that line. And then what we did on that is we created like this little pamphlet that went with it, and it kind of gave a little bit backstory on each one of these little characters. That and then we did like a splash piece of art for each one of those. And I helped out. Excuse me, I helped out on that, which was kind of fun. It was in and out. So
nice. Very nice. Now, I got to go ahead and bring this up because I had mentioned that I had you on here once before, and Dell said, hey, Jay, got to give you a lot of props. Not many people can put up with Phil, but you have been here twice. Love Kane, don't you?
No, Phil's great, man. Phil, thank you for having me on. That's awesome.
Oh, no problem. He said, need you on his show. Sorry, Phil, didn't mean to step on your toes. Now, Dell, you're never stepping on my toes, please. Dell has actually got a show that he does as well, that he has just started up and everything. And he does pretty well with that one too. So we'll look into getting you on there as well to get some
Oh,
more exposure.
yep.
And he did share out Gorgon to help you out. I saw that
Cool.
earlier, so
Awesome.
he's
Thank
really
you.
trying to push that one for you.
Thank you. Yeah, like again, like I say it in an opening video, is that this project is really counting on our fans, right? So with Kickstarter, and I'm still a newbie. This is my second one. Is that we're really counting on our fans to like really support us as we can keep going with it. This concept, and we love it so much. I mean, because at the beginning, I want to say Rising Rebels was a beginning to end kind of story, and it was my love letter to this 80s, and it was nothing really serious. It's not like but Gorgon's more of a epic kind of like, this could be a TV show in 2 seconds, or this could be a movie, or this could be something, and we're kind of pushing it that way, that this is like this epic kind of big thing. That what I really like about Kickstarter is that everybody is joining us at the same time, and everybody's kind of building this with this. So like if something big does happen, you have stake in it too, that you've actually helped and supported this, right? So I think it's a lot, as with Kickstarter and all the social media and stuff. It's just it's a great platform to get even closer to our fans. And like I said, anybody that usually like that pledges or whatever, I usually send them a note saying, hey, thank you, I appreciate every pledge. So I mean, even said that to Mark. I was talking to Mark the other day. I'm like, oh, I got somebody pledged. I'm like, hold on, let me text them, or let me send a note. And then he goes, dude, you send a note to everybody? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh, really? Nobody does that? Because like, I guess he does a lot of Kickstarters that he that he pledges to. He's like, yeah, nobody does that when I do that, on all these different ones. I'm like, okay, well, granted, if I had 1,000, it'd be a little more time consuming if there was a lot more pledges, right? But if I'm sitting there, I'm outside, or, I'm having a cigar, or, watching TV or whatever, that I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, cool. Let me just send this guy a note saying, hey, thanks, so, and I think that's important. And again, it's just getting closer to your fans in that way, and just saying, hey, thank you, for your support and whatnot. So, and then I think they feel more inclined to go, yeah, hey, I'm part of this too, and I'm helping out, and whatever So even when we go into volume 2, I have a built-in audience that are automatically going to pick it up. And that's what I was kind of hoping with Rising Rebels. Just everybody that was on that campaign can kind of jump over and go, hey, we really like what you did on Rising Rebels. We're going to jump over and support you on Gorgon, And we're changing it up too. I mean, when Jeff and I were hammering out what I wanted to do with the art, is that I'm like, Jeff, I want to do completely different than, or not completely. I want to give a whole different look than like what we did with Rising Rebels. So anybody that picks up Rising Rebels, you're going to get a different vibe from Gorgon for sure. And then we changed the art around and the layout and stuff like that. So it definitely has a different vibe to it than Rising Rebels does, So, and it's funny because like just today or yesterday, Jeff sent me some more pages, and Jeff's working on a couple different jobs back and forth. So he has this way of doing things, right? So he's working on something, and I know he'll forget like the stuff that we'll talk about or whatever, and he kind of just does his own thing, and then he'll send me a page, and I'm like, dude, remember we talked about this? And then he goes, all right, cool, then he'll fix it, or whatever. So then but yeah, it's I mean, if you look at the sample pages that we have shown, you'll see that's kind of the layout we're going for, with the white gutters, opposed to the Rising Rebel stuff where there's lots of black. We had a lot, but this is gonna be the reverse of that pretty much. So,
and just to kind of give you a look at that, let me go ahead and share, because I have it up on my screen right now, just so you can see straight from the campaign here. This is what he's talking about with the
cool
interiors on there.
Yeah, so this is the first 7 pages setting the story up a little bit. So they go to this temple, and we have Caesar right there, who's the guy who made this deal with the Gorgon, and he brings some quote unquote some bartering stuff for the Gorgon that he swaps out basically people. So she spits in this bowl that she slides out to because they don't want to get near her. So she has to like slide this bowl that she spits in out with the stick, and then that's where Caesar takes it and he goes to dilute it down, and then you can see this kid gets a little bit too close, and then he ends up getting it, and then and then this guy. What's kind of funny is this guy that's wearing the Hawaiian shirt is a guy from our Kickstarter campaign from Rising Rebels that paid money to be in this book, right? So
Nice.
he is actually the first character in our book that gets killed, or second guy. So, and then that's what we're offering again on this campaign is that like, hey, if you want to be in Gorgon Volume 2, you can get in there and be in Gorgon Volume 2. But yeah, he shows up. I think his name was Brian, and then we actually used his name and everything. But
cool. I mean, the pages look amazing, and then this was something you'd added on just today, I believe, was the original art.
Yeah, I'm like, I really wanted to hold on to this thing because this is, and I did this with Mike Dubish, and I keep saying his name wrong, and I keep emailing Mike, and I'm like, Mike, how do you pronounce your name so I don't screw it up when I try to say, and it's like Mike Dubish, right? So Mike was living in Phoenix. I've been working on this thing for a couple of years now, and Mike had some downtime, and we were talking or whatever, and I said, hey, I got this idea. I'm kind of playing around with idea or whatever. I'm like, hey, let's collaborate and try to mess around with this idea I have for Gorgon. And I was kind of explaining, some of the stuff, and I think I might have had some art already done, and I sent him some stuff, and then I said, yeah, I want to go for this kind of movie poster, kind of washy, kind of illustrative kind of look, whatever. And then he came up with that. He did another one too. I might use it as a pinup or something like that, but this was like the initial first one that he did, and then I'm like, oh, okay, well, I wanted to kind of change it a little bit, so I had, obviously, if you can look at the cover art, there's little tweaks that I did, to kind of make a more refined to how she is in the book, or whatever. But yeah, this is like the official, the first official kind of piece of art for what started it, pretty much. You know what I mean? So. Nice. So anybody that gets it is going to be lucky because I really didn't want to give it away, but I'm like, you know what? I'll just give it away, or I'm not giving it away, but obviously for $1,000, right? But
clarify, it's not being given away, y'all.
Yeah, but I didn't want to give it up because I knew at some, what happens if something really big does happen with this and we get a TV show or something out of it? This thing's going to be worth a pretty penny because this is what kind of started it, right? So
exactly.
So anybody thinking about getting it, that might be something to think about. You know what I mean? Not only are you supporting the project, but then kind of hold on to it as an investment.
Exactly. Exactly. I will tell everyone from experience, whenever I got Rising Rebels, like I get Kickstarters, and everybody knows I support as much as I possibly can financially and everything, and I get a lot of them. And I got Rising Rebels in, and it's one of them that surprised me because number one, I got the box and it was heavy. I mean, heavy. And you don't expect it. You're thinking, okay, this is going to be a little bit lighter than what I'm thinking or whatever. I opened it up and everything, packaging was absolutely, immaculate. Nothing got messed up. And of course, you know how nowadays with any kind of postal service thing, there's always that chance to get it messed up. It wasn't. And then on top of that, the care that was taken on everything else in there, the note that was in there and all, it was like, man, this is cool. It's like you knew me as a person, not just as a backer. It was like you were taking the time to go, man, I really appreciate you giving us the foothold to go ahead and keep going and do something else. And now this is the something else. Gorgon is the something else that you're moving to.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously. Yeah. I mean, because, going the first Kickstarter campaign, you're going into it like, is this going to work? I don't know, whatever. And then it did well, And then this time around, I'm like, all right, well, let's do something that's a little, we're more invested in it with this. It's not like we're in and out. So obviously we're going to be a volume 2, we're just going to keep going with it, right? So it's not like we're going to drop off the end of the earth after this is done. So because we got big plans for it. So that's why I think it's important, or it's fun, that everybody kind of jumps in from the beginning, because we're going to be telling this story forever how long. And, granted, we're not going to be moving at the same pace as like if we were working with, I want to say, when I was working with Image or working with IDW, that, you had this monthly schedule, which, burns a lot of us out really quickly. So I think with these Kickstarters, we go into it going, let's take our time. Let's have some fun with this. Let's, not kill ourselves and stress out about it. And, spend the time we want to making a really, really cool project. And again, getting that much closer to our fans, offering these cool things. You know what I mean? Because there's no way, if we went through a publisher, you couldn't get all this other cool stuff, right?
Right.
So I think that's what's great about this campaign. And obviously, we're going to kind of keep everybody updated as we're going. So after we get through this first volume, boom, we're going to go, start production on the next volume, and everybody's going to follow us through all that till we launch our campaign for that one. You know what I mean? So it's going to be a really, fun story, or how I like to say it. You're coming along for this ride, and there's all this stuff that's going to be happening along the way, I guess, kind of stuff,
Exactly.
I think we were kind of talking about 68 a little bit earlier too, about how, after 6 volumes and 10 years of producing that series, we're actually going to start bringing it into another medium, and we can't get into the details too much of it, because how it works is that the people that we signed a deal with have a first right exclusivity with other people that they work that they're associated with, so they have to filter it through them, and then after, if they decide to do it or not do it, then we can kind of filter out and go out into other territory. So we have to be polite of that, or understanding of that.
Exactly.
And then but the people that we're working with, we've had a couple meetings with them, and at the end of the last meeting we had, I'm like, dude, I don't need to talk to you guys anymore, because you get it, you got it. You're doing exactly what we want, and you understand our vision and how we see this being told. This is a Full Metal Jacket meets Night of Living Dead. You know what I mean? So it's hardcore. Again, a Vietnam era, war story, but throw a zombie apocalypse in it. Nothing pretty about it. Rated R, graphic, violent. You know what I'm saying? So they get it, and they understand it, and they understand the vibe and the feel and everything that we're shooting for. And I'm like, yeah, I don't need to talk to you guys unless something else really big happens, because you don't need my approval for anything else, because you guys you get it, and just just go go do it. You know what I'm saying? So let us do what we do, and let them handle all the producing and the getting all those eggs. There's when it comes to making movies or TV shows and all this kind of stuff, there's so many pieces of puzzles and this, that, and other thing, and then I don't want to rack my brain on any of that. I want to focus more on this stuff.
Exactly.
So after they produce 68, they go, Jay, what else you got? And you're gonna go, well, here we go. Let's do Gorgon. You know what I mean? So so hopefully all that will come out really well. And have some really big news on that soon. But again, it's Hollywood stuff. I always take it with a grain of salt, because everybody throughout the years, and I've been doing this for 20 years, and all the other creators I've known, worked or whatever, all had similar. Their stuff gets picked up, and then they make a big announcement, and nothing happens, right? You know what I mean? So I don't want to be that guy. I mean, even though I'm saying it or I've said it, but again, I'm not going to be like, hey, we are making a movie. Like, no, we're in the process of getting it off the ground, and it's going in that direction where we want it to go. You know what I mean? You got the right people involved, and it's good potential. good potential for it to happen. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And from what I've seen of 68, I mean, it looks amazing as is anyway. But then again, it kind of falls into the rest of the stuff you got. That's why you need to go over there and take a look at Gorgon, because not only Gorgon, but there's actually other add-ons that are on there as well. In that,
I have. Let's see. So obviously you can get Rising Rebels, the collected edition, right? And then we have for add-ons you can get. We had the Tyrannosaurus Rex book. This kind of sold out immediately. And then I threw in a Frazetta's Moon Maid. Tim Vigil and I worked on this together. Yes. And then I have a Frazetta trade paperback, Volume 1, which has 4 different stories in it. Tons of really cool stuff in this book. With Rick Remender. Let me see who's on. I have to remind myself. It's been over 10 years, right? So Steve Niles, Nat Jones, Rick Remender, Mark Kidwell, Jay Fotos, Josh Ortega. I'm trying to think who else is on here. Tons of guys. Josh Metters, Francisco. I can never say his last name right. He worked on Francisco. Let me see if I can get it. Francisco Francivellia. I can never say his, but he did all the Batman. I mean, Dracula meets the Wolfman, and then a bunch of other guys in here, Tim Vigil and a bunch of other guys in here. So that's offered on there too. And then what else did I put up as then the art, and obviously, so I got all this stuff as add-ons. And giving away the free comic books too, and then we got the bunch of stuff. You got to go check it out. Check the link out.
Exactly. So as long as $20 on there, then you get the free comic, and you get a couple other things added on. Yeah. Your real value is whenever you get the box, because that's whenever you start getting the upgraded interior, the signatures on there, and all the numbered. They're numbered that you're doing on there.
Yeah, we got like a hologram number in there too. But I like again, it's that, and everything fits in there nice and neat. So it's something you put on the shelf, and and then you can kind of pull it off and pull out all the little goodies that you get with it, and all the different stuff, and so I like the packaging that this is like something you just put on the shelf, and everything's nice packaged, nice and neat, and inside of it. So it works good. I like it. So.
Definitely looking forward to it. Definitely looking forward to everything that you've got coming up with all of this. Let me go ahead and backtrack real quick, because a lot of people have a question about, whenever you're doing Kickstarters and stuff like that, the next thing coming out of this, because you got 4 days left, is fulfillment. I can tell you from experience, fulfillment, it takes a little bit longer, simply because when you're getting signatures, like whenever Rising Rebels, this is not something where you put a stamp on there. You just stamp everybody's signature on there. It was
almost to me how I do it. I don't mean to cut you off there, but what I immediately will do, like right after the campaign's over, is send out the plates for we have the inside plate, this right here. Right. So I'll send out. Jeff's in New York, so I'll send out a stack of these out to Jeff for him to sign, and then he'll send them to Mark, who's in Indiana. Then Mark will send them back to me, obviously. Then at the same time, I'll send out a stack of the plates that Nat did right here, and he's up in Canada. So those will all be in the works as right at the end of this campaign. And then obviously I got to get all the boxes ordered and put together and all that kind of stuff. So that's going to be somewhat of a process. Everything else, all these books are here. I have these, they're ready to go. Same thing with, Rising Rebels. That's here. The Frazetta, these are all here, ready to go. So I'll get all these signed up, packaged up, ready to go. So when we actually go to print with Gorgon and we get them back, all you got to do is just slide it in, whatever, and then get them out the door, right? So, and then we work with I work with a printer in the United States, which makes things move a lot faster. Because once we get the books done, pretty much the turnaround time is like 2 weeks. Right? That's where we hope, right? COVID's still kind of in play here, but compared to if we went overseas, you're looking like a 9-week turnaround, right?
Right.
So working with, I mean, you pay a little bit more with a U.S. printer, but you're able to kind of keep your thumb on things a little bit more, and the quality and all that kind of stuff. And then I can get them shipped here within a week, rather than 6 weeks in China, So I kind of pride myself on doing everything quote in-house,
Exactly.
keep everything in the U.S. kind of thing. You know what I mean? So.
And that's what I was going to say is even with all of that going on with Rising Rebels, it was sent out surprisingly fast. I mean, even
Yeah, well,
for
that one was, it was done, right? So all the interior art and everything was done. I just had to button up and, package it a little bit, do the covers and some extra content. Or we did, we added a 10-page story to it. That was the added content to that. So there wasn't that much production time in Rising Rebels, but in Gorgon, we're working on it right now. We've been working on it. So, but we're, at the same time, I'm working on Lock and Key. I also teach at Phoenix College. So we're kind of steadily moving along with it. Same thing with Jeff. Jeff's working on a couple different things here and there. So, like I just said, I got a batch of pages from Jeff today or yesterday. So we're constantly, so we hope to have everything out to the printer, in the next month or so. And then we're shooting for an August. But again, that's why I'm saying play it safe. We're going to get it out to you by August. And then, so we're not stressing out and nobody's, worried about, any of that kind of stuff. So, which kind of still kind of plays on same timing if you were going through Diamond previews and you're pre-ordering books 3 months in advance,
exactly.
so it's pretty much the same timing. So, but with what we're doing, we have way more control over it, and we're handling everything ourselves. So,
Exactly. Now, what I'd like to see is I'd like to see everyone that's in the audience go ahead and go, like I said, the links are in there, embedded in Facebook and YouTube. If you'll go over to the campaign, definitely take a look at it, yes, but I want to see some shares out there, and if you will tag me in that so I can see that that's going on with that, and go ahead and tag Jay in that as well.
Yeah.
And we can see that it's being moved around just to see, the people are getting some exposure on there and seeing what's going on. Because not everybody knows, that this thing is live on here, what's going on. It's got 4 days left. And we want to catch as many people as we can, give them that opportunity, because this is technically first appearance of something that can have a much larger role as time goes by on this. So those collectors out there, you know how important first appearances are. This can have a much larger role if things roll a lot faster and move the way that they're supposed to.
I mean, and again, I'll stress this as most of because when we initially were thinking of this concept, I'm like, oh my God, this is totally built for like some kind of TV or movie or something. It's totally built that way. And
Exactly.
And that's what we're shooting for. We're really shooting for that concept. Again, look, going back to the Rising Rebels, which is like kind of this 80s goofy, campy horror stuff, right? You're like, I'm content with that's it. It only, everybody reads it and they're like, oh my God, this would be such a cool movie or whatever, like, hey, if it happens, cool. But it's like, I'm content with like, hey, it's cool as a comic book by itself, and I can let it lie there like that, but with Gorgon, we're like, oh man, we got to really push this because it's too cool of an idea, and it's we could see it going into way different media. You know what I mean? So that's why we want to keep it going. So rather than like the Rising Rebels, everybody asks like, hey, would you? Is Rising Rebels done? You don't like, yeah, it's, unless something happens, right? Like if the Rising Rebels movie or something that ever happened, like, oh, obviously we'll have to do like some kind of follow up or something, So, but the same thing with 68, is that there's always room to come back to it, but with Gorgon, we want to kind of build it that it's kind of out there, and we're constantly putting stuff out, and eventually, we're building up more and more and more and more of a fan base, and also story and the property, so everything kind of starts building. The more you put into it, the more you're going to get back, right? So I think with Gorgon, we're just going to kind of keep going with it and build, and then kind of get more and more and more fans, and then kind of get people's attention and going. And people are, whoever the big wigs are, Hollywood, whoever's listening, hello. And then they go, what is this Gorgon thing? What's this all about? And then people are like, oh my God, you gotta, it's so cool. Wait till this thing and all that. And I'm like, oh yeah, that could be really good. And then we get a phone call or, whatever. Or, again, with the 68 stuff that, if that's successful and they're like, hey Jay, what else? What do you guys got next? On your plate. And they're like, well, Gorgon, and then we just kind of keep going with it. Right. So
exactly. Well, this is the link right here. And like I said, it's embedded in the feeds that are out there. So just click on the see more up there where it gives the description, and it'll have all the links up there for everything. And that is included in there. So definitely go over there, take a look at it, get this thing shared out, get this thing moving, and we'll see what we can do in the next 4 days and see if we can get a DemoNation challenge out there. Let's get you to 16,000. I mean,
yeah, that'd be fantastic. Well, what am I at right now? I haven't even looked.
You are at, let me see, I've got it right here. You are at 14,407.
Nice. Okay. So I had a couple of people jump on.
Exactly.
So nobody's taken the plunge yet for that art. Hopefully somebody the next day will pick it up. So
exactly. Jumps on that.
I wouldn't be upset if nobody takes it, believe me, because I kind of really wanted to hold on to it. I know at some point it's probably going to be worth a shit ton of money. So
yeah. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, 222 backers, 4 days on here. I mean, it's feasible. I don't see a problem with that.
Cool.
I'll be sharing it out. I know I've got some other people that'll be sharing it out. Dell is one of them as well. He'll be sharing it, and we'll get some traction on this and see if we can't get you that DemoNation challenge of 16,000 to finish it up. But I'd like to see past that. So yeah, let's at least get the DemoNation challenge.
Yeah, I think our goal, we at least got to beat out what we did with Rising Rebels, which I think was like 15 something. But then what I find out with Kickstarter is that like you lose a lot of your, I guess your pledges that people, I guess you lose like 8 to 10% of your pledges at the end, which is very upsetting, folks. So listen, if you're gonna pledge, okay? Right. Don't drop out. And then kind of you make me very sad when you do that, because I get a message every time somebody goes, so-and-so canceled their pledge. And then I hit them up and I go, hey man, you okay? Did I say something? Whatever. And they're like, no, man, because I guess there's a lot of guys that were pledging on a lot of other stuff. And they're like, yeah, man, I kind of overextended myself. So people, if you're going to pledge, stick to it. Okay.
Exactly.
So, because you make me upset, because every time there's somebody backs down, I get really upset thinking that I take it very personally. So make sure if you pledge, stick with us. So
exactly.
We will deliver. We will deliver and keep delivering as long as you stick with us. So
absolutely. It is definitely worth sticking with.
Yes, thank you.
Well, Jay, I can keep you on here all night, but let's go ahead and if you'll give us an audible shout out on where we can find you, and then I'll go and do my closing statements. If you want to hang out backstage afterwards, we'll talk.
Okay. I guess my go-to, jayfotos.com, and then I have my Jay Fotos Studios on Facebook and also Instagram. And then that's pretty much my gamut of social media. So
cool. And
I'm trying to be a lot better with it, and I'm trying to figure out the ins and outs and all this kind of stuff, and making, I really make sure if people hit me up and ask me questions, I make it a point to, hit them back and, answer any questions or help them out on anything that they need or, whatnot. So I try to do as best I can, so.
Exactly. And before you leave, just make sure, everyone, that you'll go ahead and share out the campaign and tag Jay and myself in there on Facebook, so that way we can see it moving around and we can kind of track it and see what happens. We got a DemoNation challenge out there. We're ready to hit this bad boy.
Cool.
All right, Jay, I appreciate you being here. I am looking forward to getting you back on again for the next project as well.
Yeah, so, Gorgon Volume 2.
I will be keeping in touch.
What we were talking about earlier is if anybody has, because we put out this Tyrannosaurus Rex, and it was kind of a funny story. I don't mean to prolong it, but we were talking about this off camera or off stage here, and then about we did this book probably about 10 years ago, and originally this was supposed to be a Frank Frazzetta's Tyrannosaurus Rex, and then this is right when Frank and Ellie died, and all that stuff with the Frazetta family happened. So we were like, oh, you know, let's just release it as Tyrannosaurus Rex. And you know, I haven't looked at this book probably in like 10 years. And then when I went to go put it up as an add-on for the campaign, I was flipping through it and I read it again. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool and funny. And then I even hit up Mark, because I called up Mark, because Mark, Jeff, and I all did this book together. That's why it's in the campaign. So people are like, why is Tyrannosaurus Rex? It's because Mark Kidwell, Jay Fotos, and Jeff Zornow did this book too. So that's why it kind of ties in. But so I hit up Mark and I'm like, Mark, do you have a copy of Tyrannosaurus Rex? And he's like, yeah. And I said, do me a favor, just pick it up and read it again. And then tell me how effing cool this book is. So, and then my idea is like, you know, I'm like, hey, let's re-release this. You know, let's maybe extend on it, because it's about this lone Tyrannosaurus Rex that kind of goes through these trials and tribulations. And then there's these little stories that go on around him that kind of drive the story. And, you know, how we leave this story is like, he kind of keeps going on. So I'm like, yeah, you know, it might be kind of cool to like bring this back and then do an extension story on it and make it like a 40, because we're not going to be doing floppies anymore. We're going to be doing the more of the graphic novels or novellas, like what we're doing with Gorgon, like the 48-page perfect bound books. So like we can do like a doubled up version of this and have some extra content and all that kind of stuff, and bring it back into play. Because I think, because again, it's, you know, people love dinosaurs, and if anybody picks up this book, it's such a really cool concept idea, and I think we can kind of take it to a next level and maybe do another Kickstarter campaign to extend it. So that's like, I mean, because we got a bunch of ideas that we're like playing around with, you know. So obviously with Gorgon, we'll keep going with it, but I'm like, hey, this is something we can do as like a filler, or, you know, because you know, because we could reprint issue 1 and then add another, you know, 20 pages of story to it, and it wouldn't be that much of an extensive labor extensive project, but put out in a nice new packaging and make it look cool, and then do all the exclusives and add-ons and whatnot, and then make it fun, right? You know, so
exactly. I mean, you got all kinds of projects you're working on. You're moving in forward motion here with all this. You've got the light at the end of the tunnel, and you're moving quickly toward that. So it's a good thing. We're seeing great things from you.
Thank you. We're trying. So,
well, again, I appreciate it, and we're looking forward to next time. And if you need anything, definitely let me know. But like I said, I'll be backstage here shortly. Let me finish up out here.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you, everybody, for coming by, and we'll see you out there. Get out there and support Gorgon, and we'll make this a really kick-ass project for sure. So again, thank you everybody for supporting us, and we'll see you out there. Thank you.
Very cool. All right. So we had a hell of a show, hell of a guest on here. Got to talk about the campaign going on with Gorgon. Got to go take a look at this thing. Do not miss out on this thing. Now, I always have a closing statement. Tonight's not going to be any different, and it's usually based on, you know, my guest that's on here. Kind of the same way with this as well. Closing statement tonight is support your local creative. Very simple. Jay has said it several times during the show that the reason that the Kickstarters are here is simply because as much as we want them to keep going, he will keep them going. If we don't show interest in it for whatever reason, it won't go as much. We'll put it that way. So we need to keep showing that interest and keep going ahead and supporting. Now, we have discussed this in past shows, and we discuss it a lot in a lot of the shows that go on. Support does not always mean strictly financial. Doesn't mean that. Not everybody can financially support everything that's out there, myself included. But that doesn't mean that you can't use the power of that finger, use the right one, and you can hit that share button and go ahead and move this thing around so that everybody can pay attention to it and, you know, get a little more exposure off of it. It's very simple to do, doesn't cost you a thing, doesn't even cost you that much time at all. It's like 5 to 10 seconds at most, and you get it out there. Not only that, I'm going to tell you right now, and I know my guest is listening in the backstage and everything right now. Every single creative is like this. The more shares that are out there, the more passion that's put in there from the shares and from the support, it fuels them. they will do more on their way of going ahead and getting things out there. They will do more on providing quality books for us and quality art for us. They will do more on making sure that we're happy with everything that they've got. And it's not always every single person has to be financially supportive. Everyone just needs to be supportive. Go out there and show that you like what they're doing. Be appreciative that they spent their hard time to go ahead and do what they're doing, because that's their living on what they're doing. So help them out. That's all you got to do. And like you said, if you're going to make a pledge, stick to it. If you decide you got to change it or cancel it, sometimes it happens. Life happens, is understandable. Shoot them a message. They'd rather have a message than a blank on there, because then a lot of things start going through their mind about if they did something wrong. So just like in life, if you're going to go ahead and change things up, go ahead and communicate it. Doesn't take anything to do so. So that being said, get out there, support Gorgon in any way you possibly can, and let's go ahead and get those waves of change going on this project as well as every other project that's out there. So until next time, which is this Thursday, I will see you again on Hell of a Show. It's been a hell of a time. We will catch you next time.